Thanks. Yeah, pleasure to be a part of this. My name is Sean Gallagher. I'm Executive Director of the Center for the Future of Higher Education and Talent Strategy at Northeastern University, which is headquartered, I guess you could say, in Boston, Massachusetts, but also has some campuses now around the world. I've been looking at this theme for the last 20 years, really focused on the intersection of employers and the workplace and post-secondary education. And as John referenced, this call has been growing. I think, in particular, since the Great Recession, which has now been, that was a decade ago, and certainly we're seeing more colleges and universities compelled to integrate employability, if you will, into their curriculum, to add new services, and in some cases, and perhaps we'll talk about this, staple on offerings and new types of certificates and certifications to make their graduates more employable and to deliver a return on investment, given the high tuition levels and issues around student debt, et cetera. So excited for the conversation. This might be somewhat controversial, but if I'm familiar with that data set, I think that's similar to the level that we saw in the mid 2000s or early 2000s during that recession, and perhaps even the 80s or 90s as well. So it's a bit of a cyclical problem, and certainly college debt levels and other things that contribute to the return on investment, if you will, aren't the same as in decades past. But I think when the rubber hits the road, employers largely still value degrees and college graduates. That's not to say that there aren't some issues there and that things can't be better aligned. But for the most part, people who complete college, that's the best pathway that's available. There are some new pathways and credentials emerging, which might be more affordable and might help us tackle this issue. And so I think it's sometimes difficult to kind of practically dig into that disconnect between, for decades now, CEOs say, well, we think 90% of college graduates aren't ready. But then in terms of their actual hiring activity and what they're paying people and so on, the degree still has some lasting value. So it's important that there's debate there. And I'm not looking to defend credential inflation or how the curriculum and outcomes of colleges and universities could be fixed. But I think the solution is probably somewhere in the middle in terms of a meeting place, versus purely saying, well, we need more coding boot camps and apprenticeships and non-degree credentials, or we need more of the liberal arts. It's the integration. It's the willingness of universities potentially to shake up how they have delivered things, how they have designed things, valuing practical experience and work experience and so on. So that's an initial take on that data point.